Week 6 in the NFL, we get to see the Seahawks head to Duval to play the Jaguars. Katie Caldwell, Jeff Lloyd back here with you today. Jeff, this feels like a good measuring stick game to me. I feel like the Seahawks look better than 3-2 and the Jags at 4-1. I still do have a few questions. I swear this NFL season, I have no idea who's actually good and who's actually not. What do you expect to see in this game?
Yeah, I think to your point, yeah, I think there's definitely some Jekyll and Hyde to a lot of teams right now, where they show up,
Yeah.
1 week and you're like, okay. And then the next week it's like, well, no phase of their team, special teams, offense, defense actually looked well today. I think Jacksonville probably is a pretty good talking point right now, certainly coming off,
Mhm.
that Monday night game. And, Brian Thomas Jr., their second year wide receiver, who certainly struggled mightily early in the season, starting to heat up. I think that was the first time you maybe got the first Travis Hunter idea of what exactly Jacksonville's vision is for Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
It was
I
60
agree.
snaps, it was 35 on offense, 25 on defense, the 44-yard reception, obviously, just an electric play, and this kind of what I think everybody was
Good
expecting,
catch. Yep.
from Hunter early in, his career. There was another one where, he caught it on the sideline and just basically had a double juke move, one in, one out. And certainly there were Chiefs defenders looking at each other like, just, whoa, this guy is certainly from another planet with a move like
Yeah.
this. He certainly contributed as a defensive back as well. And I think for the Jags, the thing where I think this can be sustainable for Jacksonville is you needed guys to see this turn into results to believe it. And now when you're
Mm,
sitting here 4-1, those who were, and everybody's dialed in, but now it's, oh, am I going to stay 10 minutes later? You know what? Can we break down this one more rep, on the whiteboard a few more times? Because now I think you're starting to pick up a little bit of a, a sense of urgency. And you
yeah.
look around, certainly around the AFC. And again, just like we all expected, the only division in the NFL with two 4-1 teams, the AFC South, just like everybody predicted, of course. But,
Exactly.
and that's also the other thing if you're Jacksonville, I'm sure you think you're better than the Indianapolis Colts, but it's like we got to keep pace. And it seems early to say
Mhm.
that, but yeah, we got to keep pace here. There's a standard being set right now in the top of this division. And every win you get gets you closer and closer to the possibility of playoff games being held in your building, which I'm sure Jacksonville would be ecstatic about to have that opportunity. If you're Seattle, you're coming in this game right now going, we just scored 35 at home and
Yep.
somehow we lost. And we talked about it, one of the most difficult environments in the entire NFL. And you tell somebody the Seahawks are going to drop 35, I think everybody's going to go run to the, basically run to their phone, and they're going to drop all their money on Seattle because Seattle scoring 35 at home seems like a surefire bet until Baker Mayfield and certainly the Tampa Bay Bucks had, other thoughts, which probably doesn't bode necessarily well for Jacksonville, of course,
Mhm.
as now they are coming to town, of course. I'm sorry, as Seattle is now making this long trip to Jacksonville and they're aggravated, agitated, of course.
The game versus Kansas City, that to me felt like a microcosm of the Trevor Lawrence experience. We saw the ceiling, we saw the amazing plays, we saw him running in for touchdowns, and I feel like we also saw the floor where he's making these mistakes, and then there's times I'm staring at my TV going, snap the ball, like you can't take
Mhm.
another delay of game penalty right now. It just felt like such a this is what we get with Trevor Lawrence. What do you expect to see from him against the Seahawks defense?
And that's the thing, is like some of Trevor Lawrence's issues, they're like self-inflicted. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? You're making it even harder on yourself. And
Yeah.
even, what turned out to be, the game-winning touchdown run. I mean, it was, I would just think Vince Lombardi probably rolled over in his grave watching it. It was one of the ugliest football plays I've ever seen in my entire life.
What was Chris
Y
Jones doing? Oh my god.
Chris Jones was watching is what Chris Jones, and I honestly just don't get it because even when you saw that Lawrence was still running, wouldn't your brain say, "Well, at least run towards him"? Did he think maybe he was down? Whatever. I mean, there's a million scenarios I can understand why he initially maybe stopped in bewilderment because the whole play was just weird. Why he stayed in park, I have no idea. And
None
I'm
of us
sure that
do.
was probably a talking point that, certainly came up, through the film, with the Chiefs defense and of course with Chris Jones. But, and I think just for Lawrence, just go out there and play. And Lawrence was a highly touted recruit. played with nothing but uber talent at Clemson. They finally got, his skill players between Hunter and Thomas, commensurate to his skill level. Just don't think, man. Just
Yeah.
play. And you have the talent around you, and certainly there's a comfortability factor of, as much time as he spent with Etienne in college and now into the NFL. Maybe some of it, and usually sometimes things of this nature, it could maybe be, a new head coach with an offensive mind, maybe getting a little too chatty in the earpiece at times. And, check this, check that, check. And, sometimes it's, well, you don't need all of that. You know what I'm saying? Because he should know the play as well as obviously Liam Cohen does as well.
Mhm.
So sometimes some of these things happen because, or you're talking so much and you get cut off. Whatever you thought your greatest point was, you never got it into Trevor Lawrence's ear because they cut you off at a certain point. And maybe Lawrence is trying to piece together maybe whatever that last, coaching tidbit was. But look, Cohen came to Jacksonville to coach Lawrence. They are
Mhm.
4-1. You just beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Have faith in the kid. Obviously, he's getting it done to this point. The other players around him are performing to that level as well. Just let the guys go do their thing. Don't over coach.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. The ceiling to me for both these teams is still so high. Who needs this win more right now?
I would probably say I think Seattle does because you lose at home
Especially
and you
within
score
that
35.
division.
You
Yeah.
know, but you gave away a game. You
Yeah,
scored
it's true.
35 at home. I mean, there's not a coach in the world that says we shouldn't have won that game. You're aggravated. You're just generally annoyed. You should have won that game. There was no way, that game should have came down to the way it did, unfortunately, and even worse that it was Darnold throwing an interception, of course, to, forever, guys have been playing probably feels like 400 years in Levante David. But if you're Seattle, you want this one because you're really, really upset and aggravated because you gave away one last week that you absolutely needed to have and should have had.
Yeah. Who do you have winning this one? I think I still lean towards the Seahawks. I think they'll be able to run on the Jags in this one. They also, like, if they want to keep pace with the NFC West, they do need to start piling up the wins. I have the Seahawks in this one. What are you thinking?
I think I'm going to go in step with you here because I think Seattle's going to come into this game with the approach of we are not getting ourselves in a shootout again
Mm,
because that is not really a game that Seattle wants to play. It's just, it's just, the way they're constructed. They want to play good defense. They want to run the ball. They want to have Sam Darnold hit the throws when, they're there. They don't want to get into a game where, oh, well, Sam Darnold threw for 350 because that usually doesn't usually bode well for the rest of the way the Seahawks team operates.
mm.
So I think they're going to come in with the belief of trying to play some small ball here and maybe kind of like choke Jacksonville out a little bit. And that is one thing I think you can do to Trevor Lawrence is if you make him a spectator, and he's got to sit and watch longer, then, guys have a tendency to come in and say, well, I want to get 10 points on this drive. And that's when mistakes start to show up a little bit.
Mm.
But I think Seattle is a sneaky one to sneak one into Jacksonville and walk out with the W this week.